Just wait for some people to join this live stream. It's not very often that I find 5 minutes to spare to go live, but I just thought I would jump on. Obviously, some of you have your exam tomorrow, so I want to instill you with some last-minute confidence. Hi, guys. I've just realized that the you know, these sort of new high-tech laptops, not that this new laptop is particularly high-tech, but the sort of webcam comes out of one of the keys and it's not the most flattering angle. It is what it is. Yeah, I just wanted to jump on really quickly and say a full walkthrough is coming soon. It's just processing. It's a sort of 2 hour, it's slightly longer than the first video. I think it's about 2 hours and 18 minutes, just because I'm giving commentary throughout. So that is currently processing. If you have an exam tomorrow and you are one of these kind of last minute crammers, I do recommend you watching that video. If you have a printer, the material will be in the description box below. So I do recommend you printing out the insert and the question paper. It is a new 2020 paper, one of the most recent ones. So chances are it probably isn't on the many sort of IGCSE websites out there. So I just wanted to obviously wish you good luck, but also just run through some paper one tips. The video is just processing. Because it's a slightly longer video, it's just taking a little bit of time. So let's go through the core questions. And when I refer to the core questions, I mean the summary, the writer's effect question, and the extended writing response. Of course, the first two questions are worth 15 marks, and then that last question, which is often a somewhat Herculean task. By the end, you've got no battery power left. It's worth 25 marks. This message is held for review. I'm not sure. I think someone is spamming the chat. So let's start with the summary question, the sort of do's and don'ts, because that is the first biggie. I think, first of all, and this is certainly true with some of my students and all of the years that I have been teaching IG, lots of students take the summary question for granted. They see it as easy marks, when in actual fact, I think it's quite difficult to do well. I think it's quite easy to perhaps get 7 or 8 marks, but to get 10 and above, I think it's quite difficult. So let's start with a summary question in terms of what is the process. Now, if Cambridge are nice to you, they will give you 1 strand. So they will ask you to, can I just deal with this person? Can everyone hear me okay? Sorry, I'm just having to deal with this troll cabin. Okay, so if Cambridge are nice to you, they will ask you to summarize 1 strand, but more often than not, they will ask you to summarize 2 strands. Now, a general rule of thumb that most teachers go with is that you need 10 bits of evidence for Kevin. If this is not particularly useful for you, you are welcome to leave. So for the summary question, generally the rule of thumb is you get 10 bits of evidence for the strand which you are summarizing. If it's 2 strands, 5 bits of evidence for the first strand, 5 bits of evidence for the second strand. However, take that with a pinch of salt. Do not lose sleep if you are not able to find 10 things. The mark scheme says a range of ideas, and more often than not, trying to summarize 10 ideas within the word count, 120 words, is actually quite difficult. So, I mean, 6, 7, 8, 10 is ideal, but do not lose sleep over that. Okay, just a range of ideas is absolutely fine. Lots of students sort of waste time trying to fit lots of ideas into what is a concise piece of writing. As long as you've got a range, that's absolutely fine. The second thing, which is probably the most important thing, is that you must not lift from the text. So your summary must be in your own words where appropriate. So scientific terms, geographical terms, technical terms, they can be used. That's absolutely fine. But if a text uses, I guess, sort of descriptive language or any kind of sort of adjectives, things like that, idioms, you would be expected to put them in your own words. If once you finish your summary, you notice that there's lots of words from the text, you are going to get quite low on your reading marks. In terms of the structure, don't waste time doing this sort of lengthy introduction. It's not needed. I advise my students to simply use that discourse marker firstly. So if if it's asking you to summarize the negative effects of social media, firstly, one of the negative effects is da 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 da. Okay, no lengthy introductions. Use firstly, additionally, secondly, moreover, lastly, and I don't know, to add to this in order to get your points together. It needs to be objective, it needs to be formal, no sort of flowery descriptive language is needed. Okay, third person, not first person. The other thing as well, and again, this is if you are aiming for those top marks. So I would say Cambridge expect you to do this if you are aiming for 13, 14, and certainly 15 out of 15, is that you are expected to what we call synthesize ideas. So once you've highlighted your evidence, what you want to do is number the quotations. And I've said this in my videos before, if you simply adopt this sort of linear or chronological approach, i.e., I'm going to write about this quotation, this one, this one, this one, this one, chances are when you get to those quotations at the bottom, you're going to be repeating yourself. So you need to think about how to group similar ideas together. The other thing as well, how do we stick to that word limit of 120 words? Well, we group ideas together and we use complex sentence structures. We shouldn't have simple sentences littered throughout because you won't be able to include a range of ideas. Moving on. Sorry, guys, I'm not looking at the sort of chat box just yet. I'm just going through the sort of core questions. So that's kind of the summary. With the writer's effect question, obviously you are being assessed on your understanding of how language works. So each paragraph you are directed to, you need to select 3 powerful images or phrases from each one. And you want to comment, or you want to select images which will allow you to say something different and insightful. Cambridge, those of you who have completed a wealth of IGCSE papers, you will know that Cambridge often select quite unusual text, quite bizarre text. I personally really like them, but sometimes it's quite hard to sort of penetrate that surface meaning. Okay, so to get those top marks to writer's effect, you really do not be afraid to say something that's slightly maybe unusual in your mind, because that's the beauty of language. That is what you are being assessed on. Can you show an appreciation of language, and can you analyze the effects of words and phrases? With the writer's effect question, you'll notice that the two paragraphs, or you should notice the two paragraphs will have a different kind of overall effect. You need to establish that. Okay, you need to establish that. If you get the overall effect wrong, chances are your analysis is going to be wrong. I recommend, when you are ready to tackle the writer's effect question, once you have read those paragraphs, simply write next to the paragraph the overall effect of the languages. And that may be the overall effect of the language creates an image of the character's helplessness and desperation. The overall effect of the language creates an image of the character's excitement as they wander through the street. Whatever. You want a very, very sort of concise sentence. Please do watch. There are a wealth of videos on the writer's effect question. You are not going to be penalized for not having this clear structure. However, it does help. Remember, there are no writing marks. As long as your analysis is insightful, it's original, it's exploring the language, you can still get top marks, even if your writing is a little bit haphazard. Any questions about the writer's effect? Random email. Has the same lamp as me. Will there be leniency in marking? The most recent grade boundaries were a little bit lower. I personally think Cambridge will be quite lenient. I can't promise you anything. Yes, you can. Each paragraph, I personally would. The overall effect of the language creates an image of. The overall effect of the language creates an image of. Nakul, no. The examiner invites you, very much wants to invite you to give your own interpretation. Those of you who are kind of independently studying, maybe you've got the paper here and the mark scheme here, and you're thinking, gosh, my analysis is completely different. As long as it's not way off the mark, actually, Cambridge examiners will appreciate something original and quite insightful. How much, right? So in terms of the timings, and this is based on what my students are able to do the paper in. So the summary about sort of 25 minutes, the writer's effect about 30 minutes, so 15 minutes on each paragraph. Should we repeat the overall of? Yes. So your first paragraph, this should be your sentence starter, guys. The overall effect of the language creates an image of, and that usually is followed by some abstract noun. So, for example, the overall effect of the language creates an image of the character's fear as they are entering the jungle, whatever. Can you still succeed without good vocabulary? You may get sort of limited marks for the question 3, but certainly you can succeed. Can you go over the word limit? Okay, let me talk about the word limit before I move on to question 3. I have seen, and I know this because students, some of you have sent me your scripts which your teachers have marked, and they have been penalized for going over the word count. Word counts are suggested, okay? For the summary, you do not want to go over 120 words, okay? The reason why Cambridge say not to go over the word count is because, well, 2 reasons really. There is a lot to this paper now. There's a lot more questions. There's a lot more content. You need to leave yourself enough time to complete the paper. But B, they often use this phrase that students will invariably be self-penalizing themselves, i.e., if you write over the word count, you tend to sort of stray off into a different direction. So your writing is not as focused as what it could be. Do we give a title to our summary? No. Neha, I have just uploaded a complete walkthrough for paper one. There are now 2 complete walkthroughs. I recommend you printing the reading paper, printing the insert, making notes, and having a go at those 2 papers. What should we be doing today? For the summary, staying within. For the summary question is the only question which stipulates that you must not go over 120 words. A summary is a concise piece of writing, and it's assessing your ability on, can you summarize a range of ideas? Can you pull those important ideas together? Can you group them effectively, all within the word count? Regarding the word count of other questions, and this all depends on how quickly you write, how good you are with your timings. My students, some of the scripts we have got back in the past, students which have got A stars before, their writer's effect is often massively over. That's because a lot of the students that I teach, they do literature as well. So analysing language is something that they enjoy. So they very much want to impress Cambridge. And often they go over for the question 3 as well. You will not be penalised, but try and stick within the word count. Even I find it difficult when I'm writing up models. I mean, if you watch the newest walkthrough, I go massively over for question 3, and that's just because I just want to develop and develop and develop. Okay, so for the new sort of comprehension questions, I think, well, certainly my students can get all of those newer questions. So the question 1 strands and the question 2 strands, they get them finished in about 25 to 30 minutes. For question 3, the extended writing response, if you leave yourself with 30, 25 minutes, 20 minutes, it is not going to be enough. It's worth 25 marks. If you need to sacrifice some of those smaller questions, the newer questions, because you can't find the synonym, just leave them. Do not be spending too long on those newer questions. It should be a case of, 1 minute per question almost. Question 3, I think you need at least 40 minutes. You can split the summary into 2 different paragraphs if you are being asked to summarize 2 different strands, but it's not a prerequisite. You don't need to. Right, I'm just going to Sir, how much can you go over? My students often, even though I say stick to the word count, they usually do 200, 200. So they can, and they continue to do so. They write about 400 words for the writer's effect, but that's because they are literature students and they want to impress Cambridge, I guess. With okay, so I've just had a question. So, is it important to begin journal with Dear Diary? Please do not start your journals with Dear Diary unless you are being asked to assume the role of a 6-year-old boy. It really is not necessary. Yes, please do not start with Dear Diary. You do not need to. Okay, I just wanted to, sorry, because I'm trying to sort of read all of your questions. I just wanted to talk about question 3 in a bit more detail. So for question 3, you are being asked to write in the style of one of 7 text types. Let's see if I can remember them. So there's journal, speech, article, letter, that's formal and informal, interview, newspaper report, formal report. I think that's all of them. Do not start your journals with Dear Diary unless you are being asked to assume the role of a sort of 7-year-old girl or boy. So question 3, you are being asked to, usually you are being asked to assume the role of a character. You have to become that character. This is difficult on many levels because obviously you've got 3 bullet points, you've got to write a paragraph for each, you need to have a range of ideas, but also you have to understand the character that you are dealing with. So if it's saying you are, I don't know, you are John, okay, John from this piece of fiction, you need to understand the kind of character John is. You need to look carefully at the language he uses, his sentence structures, etc. And you need to sort of replicate that. If you read your question 3 and it kind of just sounds like you're not going to do very well. It's all about changing your writing to suit a particular purpose and character. Think about your vocabulary, think about your sentence structures, think about your punctuation. Thank you, Rocky B. That's awesome. Utsav, take the word counts with a pinch of salt. Please do not waste time counting your words. Okay, just fill up the pages. I think for the writer's effect, there are 2 pages. Fill them up. Obviously, for the summary, I don't know, for whatever reason, there's 2 pages as well. It's like half a page of writing. Just fill up the pages. Please do not be counting how many words you are writing. You are not going to get penalized. Can you please? Sorry, I just need to, because quite a few people are spamming. Any analytical words or phrases that we can use? So analytical words or phrases, this suggests, this highlights, this creates a sense of, this foregrounds, this emphasizes, this evokes, this seems to suggest, all of those kind of phrases. I am definitely wishing you luck from afar. What do we start a journal with if not Dear Diary? It really sort of bugs me that teachers are still telling their students in year 11 to start journals or diaries with Dear Diary. Find me someone that isn't a young school child that starts a journal in such a way. You might want to start with a rhetorical question. If you watch my newest video, someone just asked about journal writing, Assassin Arena. Watch my walkthrough. Okay, the end you can skip all the way to the directive write the question 3, the extended writing response. The task is a journal. Look at the sort of style that I've adopted. So I think I started with a rhetorical question. I've used sort of punctuation for effect. I've used this kind of I've tried to adopt this kind of authentic voice. Random email, that looks good. Okay, so can you please guide the format for reports? So the question that I often get is, what is the difference between a newspaper report and a formal report? They are very, very different. Please go online and read some news websites and look at what a newspaper report looks like. Quite often, if it's a newspaper report, you will be the journalist and you will have to report on something which has happened. So it might be along the style of, yesterday shockwaves were sent through, I'll use Thailand because I live in Thailand. Yesterday, shockwaves were sent through Thailand as it was revealed that and you use those 5 W's. You've got direct speech, you've got reported speech, you've got interviews, and your paragraphs are smaller. Look at what a newspaper report looks like online. A formal report is very, very different. So let me give you a scenario. So you all go to school and your headmaster has received some complaints from parents that there isn't enough sports equipment, or the food is bad, or there something to do with the break times, or something that they are not pleased with. So your headmaster decides to hire an organization. Okay, they pay money, and this organization sends their team to school and they observe the sort of problems that have been discussed in the interview. Okay, so they will write up a formal report of their observations, all of the problems, and they will produce recommendations in order to solve those problems. That is very, very different to a newspaper report. Is it okay if you don't have all the points? Yes. The mark scheme says use a range of points. Yes, in an ideal world, it would be nice to have 5, 5, 5. Do not lose sleep over it. If you have 5, 5, 4, 5, 5, 3, that's absolutely fine. Another thing with the question 3, it is not just a question where you've highlighted your evidence. I'm just going to reword that and move on to the next thing. You highlight your explicit ideas. You turn that into the voice of the character, but each thing actually you need to be developing throughout. So if you look on the mark schemes, it will have suggested answers, and then you will see DEV. Have you looked at mark schemes? Have you seen that DEV? So if you see that DEV, that means to develop. So each piece of evidence you include, you need to develop appropriately. Yes, for the writer's effect, please do not. If you are struggling, if you are thinking you have to put together this well-organized response, there are no writing marks. However, a sort of structured piece is going to be far clearer for the examiner to follow. However, sorry, I just need to, this cabin person, I just need to try and remove. Yes, so you can still get 4 marks for the writer's effect question just by putting the quotation and writing your analysis underneath. If you want to do quotation analysis without embedding your quotation and all of that, that is absolutely fine. Thanks, Kuchi. Which question requires good vocabulary? You get marks for vocab for the summary and question 3. Try and use a range of sentence structures. Aditya, I would watch my videos and watch the walkthroughs in particular and make notes. Unfortunately, I can't wave a magic wand if you have not studied. But I wish you the best of luck. Oh, thanks so much. Is it necessary that general effect must be the same as the mark scheme? Not necessarily. When I write models, particularly for new papers when they are released, I will have a go at the writer's effect question. And sometimes actually mine is quite different. That is absolutely fine. As long as it's not sort of way off the mark, that's fine. But Cambridge, as I've said, are very much inviting you to be insightful, to be original. So don't worry too much. So for sentence structures, some, particularly for question 3, vocabulary and sentence structures are really important. Okay, and punctuation as well. So think about how you can use a mixture of compound, complex, and simple. Think about how you can use maybe short sentences for effect. Think about starting your sentences with an adverb. Assassin's Arena, that's brilliant. Nyan, I personally would adopt a chronological order for question 3, because usually bullet point 1 is requiring you to find evidence from early on, bullet point 2 from the middle, and bullet point 3 is kind of from the end, but also considering everything else. Do I think the thresholds will be lower? It's hard to say. Part of me is hoping that Cambridge understand and realize that you guys have been put through the ringer. It's been difficult. Some of you have just had online school for many months, so one would hope that there is some leniency, but I have no idea. Right, guys, I'm gonna have to go. I was only supposed to jump on for 10 minutes. If you want to do some last minute cramming, look at my paper 1 walkthrough and my paper. I haven't done a paper 2 walkthrough, but there's a second walkthrough. It's just been uploaded. Grab your pen, grab your notebook, print off the resources. I wish you the best of luck for tomorrow, and let me know how it goes. Good luck, guys.